Hello YouTube, this is Andrew and I welcome you to this tutorial in which I will show you how to delete multiple records using PHP. Now you might have seen or came across the interface of the PHP software here, which is one of the ways to control the MySQL databases, and you already might know how to insert new data in this database in a table inside a database PHP using PHP. My admin here, and like for example, I want to use this data. I want to insert this dummy data here. Go browse, and what I'm talking about is about now that you see these records, you have here the ability to delete these records one by one, to select here one by one, as you can see here, or if you can see here on the bottom, you have this neat functionality which, if clicked, this will work as a toggle, meaning that all the records will be checked and you can do then whatever you want with these records, but usually people use this checkbox to delete records, and I'm gonna show you this. If I go ahead and click delete here, you will see that both records will be deleted, as you might have already noticed, or maybe you have used this function before, this utility. Now I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to create this, or how to replicate the same functionality here using PHP. Now let me go ahead and open my editor and new file. I'm gonna go ahead and save this new file inside my folder on htdocs folder in my local web server, which I will call delete multiple. As you can see here, I already have created a file here with the same name. I'm gonna go ahead and replace. Okay, now I'm gonna quickly go ahead and create some simple HTML templates here. Don't mind me if I'm not going to explain this code here, since I presume that you already know how to create HTML files and how to connect to the server and select the databases, since this kind of tutorial is, let's say, a little advanced, and for those people who are already familiar with what I'm doing right here now. And I'm gonna go ahead and say here is equal to n meta trusted UTF-8, and I'm gonna go ahead and create, this is the part here that you might want to pay a little attention, because I'm gonna create now here the part where we display the data, or what we would need, but for now nothing special. I'm gonna create a div here with the ID of wrapper, which I'm gonna wrap all the information that I need. Now we are getting to the hottest part, let's say, of this tutorial. I'm gonna go ahead and comment a little bit here and say display the data, and I'm gonna create a form. This is the first thing that we need. We absolutely need a form here. Not absolutely, but I think that this is the easiest way. I'm gonna say action is equal to PHP echo server PHP self. Okay, meaning that after the form is submitted, it will be redirected to the same page that we are now, and then method is gonna be get, and then here inside the form I'm gonna create a table here. Width is equal to 100%, meaning that this table is going to stretch through the entire page here, and will be very let's say not very good for displaying data, but I will fix that. Then I'm gonna create a table header, the header, and then the body, and these two tags here will hold the header of the table, and the information that will be looped inside this body tag here. I'll go ahead and say tr, and then I'm gonna respect the columns of this database table here. I'm using this database, if you see here, where I'm pointing the mouse here, the cursor, is this database called example, and inside the database called example is this table called people, and this table is composed by 4 fields, and the first field is an ID field, which is a unique identifier, which you might already know what this does. This auto increments by 1 each time that we insert a new record inside the database, and these other 3 here are just some dummy columns, just to demonstrate to you throughout this tutorial. First name, last name, and age. I'm gonna go ahead and create the same here, the same columns. I don't need this ID to display right now, since this is just for programming purpose, not for displaying data. I'm gonna create 3 columns for the moment. Say td, say first name, td last name, age. I'm gonna style a little bit here, and I'm gonna insert a title, and the title, let's say delete multiple, style, let's say body here, font family, Arial, sans serif, size 14 pixel, line height 1.6, let's see, text align, center. I'm gonna style this ID wrapper here. I'm gonna say wrapper margin 0, top to bottom, auto left to right, and a width of 650 pixels. Oops, 50 pixels. Text align left. I want everything to be aligned left inside this div ID wrapper, but outside this div ID wrapper will be followed the rule of the body here, and everything will the ID wrapper by itself is gonna align to the center, but everything inside the ID wrapper, for those of you that know a little bit of CSS, will be aligned to the left, like we normally would read a web page. But with these lines of CSS we can achieve that nice functionality, which we can center the div here, the content on our page, no matter what size the browser is. Okay, left. Then I'm gonna go ahead and style a little bit the td tags here. I'm gonna say td padding 10 pixels, just to make a little distance between the writings here and the edges of each cell. Then the head, I'm gonna say background, and I give a background color of I don't know, something just like this. I'm gonna go ahead and okay, now we have this header here, but I'm gonna say 10 here since it's a little bit exaggerated, 20 pixel of padding. Now this is already okay. I'm gonna go ahead and center, or not center anything. What I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna create the functionality that we need to connect to the database here, and PHP MySQL connect localhost root or die MySQL error. Okay, let me repeat to you again. If you don't know what this line of code here does, or the other ones that's gonna come after this, I strongly recommend you to view my PHP basics tutorial, and you will understand then what this does. But for those of you that don't understand, I suggest you to not follow this tutorial, and first you have to learn what these lines do, but this one that I've just wrote and the other ones, and then come to this tutorial. I'm gonna do MySQL select db example or dot MySQL error. Okay, now that we have this, I'm gonna go ahead and say query data. Okay, is equal to MySQL query select everything from people or die MySQL error. Okay, now we have this. Let's test here if we have any errors. We don't, so we are good to go. Now, before I display this form here or the table inside this form, I need a way here to be able to know if we have any rows inside the database, meaning that we don't want to display this table here or form in this way, to display just the header if we don't have any rows. This is not very nice. You can leave it that way, but you can do better, like this for example. I will check now with the PHP built-in MySQL functionality called if MySQL num rows. It's gonna check inside the query data it's gonna check this variable here, which now stores this query, if inside this variable here is any row. So if we have any row, or let's make it a little more explicit, if the MySQL num rows query data here is greater than 0, we're gonna go ahead and display all this data here. But if not, we're gonna output an error. Let's say else, and say here an h2 tag, no data to display, PHP, and if. Okay, now let's see what's going on here. Okay, no data to display, and the page is displaying correctly since we don't have any data here. If I go ahead and browse, it returns 0 row or empty table. Now I'm gonna insert rows here, structure, or rather insert. I'm gonna reinsert those dummy data 50 gene to 40. Okay, reload. We don't have anything, but we already see that the header of the table appeared, meaning that now the code is understanding that there are rows here inside the database. Now we go ahead and loop through those records, and I'm gonna copy this part here, this tr tag, since we will loop the same columns here, the same number of columns, and I'm gonna create a while loop. Row is equal to MySQL fetch a sock or array, whatever you want, query data, then end the loop right before the closing body tag. Now I'm going to echo out here whatever record is stored inside this row here, variable, this array, and say echo row first name, and then echo row last name, row age. I'm gonna save the code so far, and I'm gonna reload here, and as you can see now we are displaying the data the same as here. We are on our way to create this simple and good software. Now what we need else here, I'm gonna create a dummy, a break in space, a dummy column here on the header, but on the inside the body here, inside the loop, I'm gonna create another TD, and inside this TD I'm gonna create a input type checkbox. I'm gonna name it, and now you have to pay attention here, because this is the part which will be responsible for checking the rows, like here. Okay, but in our table the checkboxes will be displayed here, will be shown at the end of the table instead of at the beginning. And I'm gonna say here multiple, but the name here is gonna be followed by double square brackets here, opening and closing square brackets. This meaning that we mean to pass through a URL, to the URL, an array to the super global get or post. It depends on what method we are assigning to the form here, or what we are passing through this form. But pay attention here, you need these square brackets absolutely, because by itself PHP doesn't understand what we are trying to do, and if we leave it without these square brackets, it will take only the first value of the first checkbox that you click here, and will not care about the rest of them, and you would not be able to achieve the desired result and not be able to delete multiple records. And the value now, as value, I'm gonna pass the row ID that I mentioned before, that I would use only for programming, for programmatic reasoning. And I'm gonna go ahead and reload here. Now you can see these two checkboxes have appeared here. I'm gonna go ahead and align to center, just for aesthetics. Okay. Now, just right above these two checkboxes here in this section, here in this square, which has nothing for now, I'm gonna go ahead and create the button. Line center, div, input type is equal to submit, name is equal to delete, and value is equal to, and now you see here that if I click this button, we've submitted the form, and for now only the value of this delete multiple input is passed here. But if I go ahead and click these two checkboxes and click delete multiple, if you're able to see here, we have passed multiple variables, multiple square open square bracket close square bracket is equal to 5, and these values here are coming from the value. Let me open my code inspector here. The value of 5 is the same as the IDs here, which I put here to the value of this checkbox, and reload. Okay, now we need the functionality to delete the records. To do that, I'm gonna say if is set, let me check if the button was clicked, get delete. So if we have a delete request, then I'm gonna store all the multiple array here in a variable. I'm gonna say multiple is equal to get, or rather MySQL real script string. And another thing that I want to tell to you is that I'm not much on creating secure scripts here, rather than I want to focus on the functionality, meaning that in this way that I'm writing the code, you might be vulnerable. Your this code is very vulnerable if you don't use the cross-site script security, and if you don't escape like I'm doing now. You might be at risk if you use the code like this, because you are vulnerable to the SQL injections, but I'm not gonna focus on that part. You have to do that by yourself. Okay, string multiple. I'm gonna go ahead and copy this here. Copy. Maybe I got this wrong. Paste. Okay. I'm gonna reload again and say this, delete. MySQL real escape string to be a string array given. Okay, you can't use this here. I didn't know that. I discovered a new thing. But you can use it like this. Okay, let's say now you can loop through all the items of this array through the keys with a for each loop, for each multiple as item, let's say item ID, and to be able to delete all of the records with one query, we could do this. For example, we could do MySQL query delete from people where ID is equal to MySQL real escape string item ID, and that would do the job for us. But this would execute, let's say for example, let's take an example. If you have 100 checkboxes here, that would mean that you would have to execute 100 times the query here to query 100 times the same functionality. But I'm gonna show you a better way to do this and to save the bandwidth of the server and the server requests, and that is, I'm gonna go ahead and create a variable here. I'm gonna say I is equal to 0, and then inside this for each loop I'm gonna increment by 1 this I each time that we have a new item checked here, and then I'm gonna say if here this variable I is equals 1. I'm gonna say here SQL is equal to delete from people. This is the I am initializing here the SQL string, and then concatenate here SQL to, I'm gonna go ahead and say equal to where ID is equal to MySQL real escape string item ID, else, meaning if this item ID, the value of this item ID is 2, 3, 4 or 5, it's going to concatenate this other part inside this SQL, which, and say or ID is equal to, and then I'm gonna go ahead and copy this part here, copy, paste, and we might be good to go right now. I'm gonna go ahead and echo out this SQL string to see if we are okay. Echo SQL save reload. Okay, now if you are able to see here on the address bar, we have 2 requests, and that is the value 5 and the ID is equal to 6. Now if I go ahead and click only one, you will see that this OR here will disappear, since we would have here just one item, as we told to the script here. If the I value is 1, Don't worry if you don't understand this code right now. You will understand after trying one or more times doing this. You will try to catch the logic behind this. Delete multiple. Now you have this. Okay, I think that we're ready to query here. MySQL query SQL or die MySQL error. After executing the query here, the string, I'm gonna go ahead and redirect the page header, since we don't want to display the interrogation point here, question mark, and the other part of the URL here. We need a clean URL. Location server PHP self, and then in case this header location fails here, I'm gonna exit the script. We don't want to show any more code here. I'm gonna reload. Now we don't have a record here. That is because we had here previously a selected record to be deleted. Now if I go ahead and click this and say delete, now we have no data to display and everything's working fine. I'm gonna go ahead and insert new records. Okay, go reload, and voila, we still have the records. And if I go ahead here and recheck these checkboxes and click delete multiple, I'm sure, as you know, that these two records would be deleted, and I'm not gonna do that because I will show you now how to create this very good functionality, neat functionality, which is by checking this check all here. You will be able to check all these checkboxes here. I'll go ahead here, and to do that I'm gonna create a checkbox right after the submit button and say input, or rather, because I'm lazy, I'm gonna copy this checkbox here down to the bottom, paste, and then name this from multiple to toggle. I don't need any value here, but I need an ID because I need to get this element here with JavaScript. ID is equal to same as the name, toggle. I had here reload. Okay, now we have this other checkbox which for the moment doesn't do anything except checking itself each time that is clicked. Now I'm gonna go ahead here before the closing body tag. I could do that on the header, inside the header tag as usual, but I prefer this way since I want this code to be executed after the page is rendered, and I don't want to write things like window unload or other extra JavaScript functionalities. I'm gonna say script, okay, then var toggle is equal to document get element by ID. That element is toggle from here, and then I'm gonna grab a functionality here called toggle dot on click is equal to function. So I'm gonna grab the function here, the action on click here is equal to this action, and then inside this function I'm gonna say var multiple, just like in the PHP part here, which we grabbed this multiple value from the URL here, which was passed by the form. I'm gonna copy this here now. And now if you can see here on the PHP part, we see that we didn't need to add those square brackets here inside the get post. That is that the PHP already understands that this is an array. After seeing that from the URL it has the square brackets, but the JavaScript doesn't know that. I'm gonna say multiple is equal to get element document dot get elements, this time plural, by name, and the name of the elements would be this, and this is the part that will achieve that functionality. We're gonna say for I is equal to 0. We initialize in this variable I here with a value of 0. Let's say I is equal to multiple dot length. For those of you that don't know how the JavaScript to program in JavaScript, this is a very simple JavaScript functionality, and I recommend you to also watch a little bit of JavaScript before writing this code. If you want, you can copy and paste this code as it is, but I prefer it would be better if you understand the logic of this, how this works. And basically what we are doing here is we are getting all the items that are appearing on the screen with this name. Let's say that if we looped here 50 checkboxes, the value of this multiple would be 50, and now we are initializing this for loop here, and then we are giving this variable value of 0, and then saying that this if this I is smaller than the value here of the multiple, then we're gonna go ahead and increment by 1 the I, and then we go ahead and say multiple, the ith multiple, the 1, 2, 3, 50, let's say, that we have displayed here, dot check is equal to this element that is triggering the action, the toggle, which the action was triggered on click, check. So whatever happens to this button here, toggle, when clicked, it will happen to this multiple button as well here. Let me go ahead and reload here, and let me click. Okay, everything is working fine. I'm gonna quickly demonstrate to you here that we're able to delete all of these records. Click, delete multiple, no data to display. I'm gonna repeat that again, just so you can see. Okay, go, browse, we have records here, reload, let me check one, okay, let me use the master checkbox, let's say here, delete multiple, and voila. Now this is all for this tutorial. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, please rate and comment. Thank you very much.